Okay, in this video I'm going to go over the basics of cause and effect, the cause and effect paper, and remind you of some of the basics of essay writing. We have a Word document set up here for these notes, and I may actually post the Word document with these notes as well if everything goes according to plan. So, uh, basics of essay writing, let's begin there. If you recall at the beginning of the semester, I often talk about a formula for your essays. These formulas are something you need to master. If you master the formula, then writing an essay becomes a lot like riding a bicycle. It just becomes second nature. You don't think about it. So the basic formula for an essay is an introduction, and the introduction starts with either a statement. We're going to do bullet points here, keep it simple. Statement of facts, a story, or background information. And then this leads into the thesis. Any one of those three will lead into the thesis. Now, if you remember, the thesis formula is subject plus opinion. And so this is what you are writing about plus your opinion on it, your argument essentially. I consider all essays an argument. In fact, some essayists don't, but I think that all essays have an inherent argument in their structure. So this is the first paragraph of the essay. Now, you don't have all three of these things. You would pick one of these things, and it would need to be uh, what we're going to do here. Multiple sentences that lead into the thesis statement. So you could pick any of these three options and then use that to set up your thesis statement. And if you look at the models in the textbook and the different chapters you've read, they all follow this sort of structure. The essay, the student model essay for Cause and Effect, chapter 19, is on page, give me just a second here, and I will go to it, page 480, and it continues through page 483. And it's pretty extensive, this essay, but its introduction is actually fairly short. It's the statement of facts background information model that they're using leading into the thesis. It's a fairly short introduction, but it's still multiple sentences. So you need to think of this, your introduction should be more than two sentences, because then it's not really fully developed. The ideas aren't all there. So once you have the introduction, then you move to the body sections. And remember that I use this term body sections very specifically because in a body section you might have more than one paragraph to illustrate an idea. So the key concept here is the body sections should illustrate the thesis for the reader through reliable sources and or personal experience. The information from reliable, let me hit that, from reliable sources and or personal experience is what we call examples. These examples need to be explained in the context of the thesis. So what this means for our basic structure for this, the basic structure of a body section then is topic sentence, example, explanation, and then a transition. This structure needs to be repeated 3 times at a minimum. So at a minimum, for this to be a quality essay, the structure of the body section needs to be repeated 3 times. Now, it may take more than one paragraph to create this structure. It's definitely going to take more than one sentence. And your examples, the reliable sources, they need to be cited. The reliable sources should be cited using MLA style, which you can use your handbook. That's the McGraw-Hill textbook, if you recall, the McGraw-Hill textbook. You can use that handbook, chapter 18, to help you. Now, if this is a semester where the handbook is not required, you may also use OWL at Purdue. So just to show you that again real quick, if you forgot, OWL at Purdue, you just put in OWL at Purdue MLA, because we use MLA format, and everything you need to know how to do MLA format, including how the paper is supposed to look and the guidelines for the paper, is all here. So you have a model paper to see what the paper actually looks like, and that loads here. You can actually print that out, so you'd have all the guidelines, and then you have the citation formatting and style guidelines, how to cite, what each citation needs to have in it, the basics, and some examples of that, so you would know how to do your works cited entries. And then you also have to have, for this citation style, you have to have in-text citations, which are explained here in the MLA in-text citations, the basics. So all you have to do is search for OWL at Purdue in MLA, and it comes right up. It's as easy as possible. They've made it so easy for you, there's really no excuse. So if you don't have this handbook, if it's a semester without the handbook, then you can go use OWL at Purdue. Or you might have a different handbook with your textbook. I plan on using this video over at least a few semesters. So you need to make sure that you're citing in text your reliable sources, and you're doing a works cited page. Now that's the body section of your paper. The next section of your paper is the conclusion. Excuse me. The conclusion should restate the thesis. Sorry, that keeps popping up. I have to close out my email. so that it won't pop up again. Restate the thesis. Explain or answer the so what question, which is provide guidance on the usefulness of this information without using second person you. Second person should not be used in any academic writing. Some of you are still using it. It's common at the end of the semester that some students will still use it because they don't revise. You need to revise all uses of you, your, and you are out of your papers. It's something that's pretty important for the style and tone of the paper. So that's the conclusion. The conclusion is fairly simple. It should be more than a couple sentences, though. You want to restate the thesis, give a general idea of the topic, answer the so what question, meaning why is this information important? Why is it useful? And then you want to provide guidance on the usefulness of this information. So what can we do with this information? Not only why is it meaningful, but how should we then apply this information in our own lives? Take it beyond just the essay itself and help people actually use the information in a meaningful way. Now that's the basics of essay writing, of essay structure. Now, how does this work with the cause and effect mode? Cause and effect rhetorical mode. Now, what I have students usually do is I have them use what's actually in this textbook 19.1 on page 466. So in your Successful College Writing textbook, you have these graphic charts, and on page 466 in this edition of the textbook, if it's a different edition, it's going to be obviously a different page number. You have these graphic organizers to help you think about how to organize a cause and effect paper. And I usually have students use multiple causes that lead to a single effect, and that's figure 19.1. So what that looks like then is you have cause 1, cause 2, cause 3. And then this is for the body of that paper. Each of these causes, I'm going to have to make this a little bigger to get the picture here. Draw the shapes. Insert shapes. There we go. Each of these leads to a single effect. Now, this is a bit of an oversimplification, obviously. A bit of an oversimplification. But this oversimplification is valuable when you're thinking about this paper and how you should organize this paper. Again, this is the graphic organizer 19.1 in the textbook on page 466. If it's a different edition, it's going to be on a different page number. But you can find these pretty easily. these kind of graphic organizers for cause and effect. You could do a search on the cause effect and effect rhetorical mode and probably find a graphic organizer that's similar. There's more than one way to write a cause and effect paper, but I like students to do the multiple causes and single effect because frankly it's a simpler structure. And it's a lot less confusing than the causal chains and some of these other things that you can see in figures 19.2 and 19.3. Now, how does that work with this? How does that work with the basics of essay writing? Well, if you think about it, how many causes do we have here? We have 3 causes. So if we want to make our body sections, we can make the body sections each deal with a single cause. So how that would look is instead of some general topic, you would have cause 1 leading to effect, and that's your topic sentence, and then you would have an example, which could be either personal experience or reliable source. Now remember, you want more reliable sources than personal experience because reliable sources actually make your arguments easier to swallow. That idiom isn't very good. Let me think of another way of putting it. A reliable source will make your argument more believable. It'll be easier to support your argument if you have a reliable source. So you can use either personal experience or reliable sources, but we prefer reliable sources. The reliable source needs an in-text citation, an appropriate in-text citation. Let's see if I can actually spell today, huh? Appropriate in-text citation. Now, after you have that example, you would explain the example in the context of the thesis. So notice the pattern is still the same. This is where you talk about how your example illustrates the cause and effect relationship for this first cause, and then you would transition to the next idea. Now this would be, I'm going to pick cause X there because this would be repeated 3 times. So that's how the body sections are affected by this structure. Your thesis statement for the paper would be something along the lines of multiple causes have led to this single effect. These multiple causes have led to this single effect. And not much else would change. You would have to put in your wording there, but not much else would change about the paper. Your topic sentences, everything else, the logical structure of this essay doesn't change very much. What does change is that instead of focusing on a illustration for each of these, like you would in an illustration essay, you're focusing on a specific cause. Okay, so this is the cause and effect rhetorical mode. It's pretty simple, it's pretty basic, but it does require extensive research. Now, in the essay, in the essay description, I have some guidelines where I'm describing the research requirements. What I have decided, and your guidelines may change depending on the semester, what I have decided instead of these guidelines is that instead of having 4 sources at a minimum, what I'm going to do, and making sure that they're these sources, this actually says 4 sources, but it gives 5 examples, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to say have as many sources as you need, and they can come from anywhere that you need. But remember, and this is a key concept to remember, remember this term that I'm using of reliable source. What is a reliable source? How do we determine whether a source is reliable? So let's write a little bit about that. Well, the first thing we look at is the author, or the currency. How recent is the source? How recent was it published? The next thing we look at is the author, or authority. Who is publishing it? Who is the author? What experience do they have? What expertise do they have? Then we look at, you can actually move that down to we can look at the reliability. Is the source regularly reliable? Does it have a reputation for fairness? Does the author have experience or education? And then we can look at point of view or purpose. Is the source trying to sell us something? Is the source making a profit from their evidence? Is the source biased for other reasons? Why is the source giving us this information? And this is a version of that CRAP test that I believe I usually talk about too early in the semester. I may not have talked about in your semester early on, but I do traditionally talk about it early on. The idea here is that there are some sources that are not reliable, that are actually leading us astray with false information. You want to make sure that you have reliable information. So we look at these elements. Now that also holds true for people you interview, that holds true for your survey. Uh, you might have bias, and in your bias, you might be presenting the information in a way that's not reliable. And so you have to walk a fine line and make sure that your bias is not overly influencing the paper. And this is very true with a cause and effect paper because bias leads to logical fallacies. So if you've watched that PowerPoint, if you've gone through that PowerPoint with the logical fallacies, it's very important to avoid logical fallacies in a logical construction such as an essay. You want your argument to be as reliable as possible and as meaningful as possible. And if it is meaningful, it is logical. Part of what we are practicing is logic. So you want to make sure that your argument is logically organized, but you also want to make sure that it's based on logical information, on reliable information that people can't poke holes through the whole time. So you want to go back and look at that logical fallacy slideshow and think about it. Uh, it's very important to do so because you want to avoid all those things. So that's basically it for this lecture. If you have any questions, you can post them to the Q&A if there's a Q&A for this section. You can also email me directly, but I hope that you found this information useful. I am going to save it, and hopefully I will be able to add it to the video and announcements. I'm going to post this in announcements this semester and future semesters. It'll probably be posted in the actual module on